The point that I'm making, if the black church is too insecure, too afraid, or too unconcerned about marrying divinity to blackness, then the black church is useless. But I do believe in the truth. And I do know that God chose my people through which to send every savior he's ever sent to this planet. You can't name one who didn't look like me. Buddha was an African. Krishna was an African. There's no savior that walked this earth in ancient times who wasn't kissed of the sun.
Right. See, I've come to the conclusion that black people stuck in the Bible are really just confused spiritualists. Confused spiritualists. And there's a reason for that. Probably because I am Chinzera Yuti, a.k.a. the one. The one. Ya Umar et Uda, peace to the goddesses and gods. It's your boy Chinzera Yuti, a.k.a. the one. And today we got Dr. Umar talking about the black church. And when I tell you he went in, family, he went in. I'm not going to say too much. We're just going to get straight to the video. Now, if you're new to the channel, family, make sure you drop a like, drop a share, and subscribe. Because we need the views. Because y'all give your time to everybody else. All these miseducated, blue pill robot NPCs lost in the goddamn matrix. So just drop a like, drop a share, subscribe to the channel. I mean, you ain't got nothing better to do. You still out here playing Fortnite, that garbage ass game. So let's get straight to this, family. Let me put a screen share up.
So I think some people may wonder, what does he believe, right? Prior to doing this interview, I remember we were researching, trying to figure out, is he a Christian? Is he a Muslim? What's going on? We learned a lot. But I think one of the biggest significant things that I did learn was that you are more focused, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're more focused on the socioeconomic issues.
Let me get this
versus
right.
being focused on like leading.
Let me get
Although
to
you
this.
have your personal spirituality,
Telling you, Dr. Umar went in.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I think spirituality is important because as African people, our heart and soul of existence is our connection with the Creator. At the same time, we have to recognize that organized religion has been a distraction.
Facts.
And in many cases could be considered an outright enemy of African progress. More people have been murdered in this world over Islam and Christianity than any other reason. And because of that, when you look at the role that religion played in our enslavement, both Islam and Christianity were used as weapons of enslavement against African people. The Arabs were in this.
Don't nobody want to talk about it. Don't nobody want to talk about the Catholic Reformation. Don't nobody want to talk about the Jesus Wars. Don't nobody want to talk about the first slave trade. Who was at the helms of the first slave trade? We don't want to talk about it. There's a lot of things that we don't want to talk about because it deals with what? Religion, spookism, mythology, spookism. See, this is the issue. This is the issue right here. At least in the Kemetic community, at least in the so-called conscious community. I don't really claim that because now woke used to mean you was tapped in, and now woke means that you're basically a blue pill NPC, and we ain't with all that, right? But at least in the spiritual community, at least in the Kemetic community, we can admit that it was mythology, anthropomorphism, associating the elements with characters, with gods, with deities, whatever you want to call it. Horus, Heru, whatever you want to call it. It was different in Mesopotamia. It was different in Kemet. It was different in Egypt, Greece, Rome. It doesn't matter where you go. There were stories to associate the natural with the supernatural, with the unnatural, with the cosmic. You see what I'm saying? And etc. and so on. It makes it easier to pass on traditions. That's what people don't want to understand. That yes, the Bible is a layered book. There's lots of layers to it, right? There's a lot of truths hidden in the Bible. Coldest story ever written. Coldest story ever written. But you got to understand what it is. But you reading it for him playing pin the tail on the talking donkey and Shrek and whatever else went on. I don't know. It's a weird book. Him and John was secret lovers and whatnot. We don't got to talk about all of it because I know y'all don't want to talk about it. I'm going to let Dr. Umar talk about it.
Slave trade before the Caucasians were. And so when you look at the justification for slavery in both religions, whether or not it was intended by Jesus or Muhammad to put forth such a doctrine, at the end of the day, nonetheless, both religions co-signed our enslavement and participated in it. I don't have an issue with Christianity. My mother's family is Christian. I don't have an issue with Islam. We were raised Muslim.
Yes.
That's where the name
On your
Umar
father's
comes
side, right?
from. Yes, sir. But at the same time, I see how religion has often served our oppressor much more than it has served us. I think religion is probably the greatest support base for white supremacy against African people than anything else. The fact that every religion, basically,
Wow.
and there's few exceptions, there are exceptions, but there's few, every religion deifies oppression for black people.
What do you mean by deifies?
By deify, when you go to church or you go to the masjid, you're taught that our predicament as African people is divinely ordained. Everything is under the prerogative of God. And if you are a slave or free, if you are an oppressor or oppressed, it's because God set it up that way. So when you go to church, you're told that if you pray enough, if you improve your faith enough, if you donate enough money, God will reverse this. In other words, the big issue I have with black religion, it posits an external locus of control.
Pause. Sidebar. New International Version, NIV, Exodus 21:20. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. Bomb plug, please, bitch. Bomb plug. You can beat your slave, male or female. Just don't kill the nigga. Just don't Don't kill the nigga. Don't kill his woman. You can beat the shit out of them, though. You can definitely do that. If you hit their ass with a rod and they happen to die, God probably gonna send some bad stuff your way. But you can beat that nigga ass. New International Version. See why I don't read this shit? But let's move on. I digress. I told you I was going to let Dr. Umar talk, so we're going to let Dr. Umar talk. Yuti's back, nigga. Bomb plug, bitch.
Has to come and liberate me. And the danger of that external locus of control that Islam and Christianity gives to black people is that it parallels the same external locus of control that slavery gave us. In other words, during slavery, your freedom could only come if your master bequeathed it to you. Your freedom could only come if the government ended slavery with the 13th Amendment. Something outside of you, government, social activism, benevolent white people had to make you free. And so in the church and in the masjid, the logic is the same, although it's not the government or the white man that has to free you, it's God Almighty who has to free you. And because of that, it takes the responsibility off of us to transform our reality, and we give it to the government or we give it to God.
Now, okay, so there's a lot to unpack. So, okay, so for starters, one, I love the fact that you did grow up with your mom being Christian and your father being Muslim. So you're speaking from a place of not necessarily being outside, right?
No, I was inside. I lived it.
Yeah, so like you understood and understand like the foundation of the religions.
Absolutely.
You've also gone into speaking on about just like what you refer to as toxic Christianity and toxic Islam, right? So what you're speaking on now, and this is my view of it.
And don't get me wrong, there are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things that come out of religion. Do not get me, I ain't no atheist. I'll debate any atheist tomorrow. Hey, Cube, House of Consciousness, I'll debate you tomorrow. Tomorrow. I'll study tonight and debate you tomorrow. Sidebar. As I was saying, I ain't no atheist. There are beautiful things that come out of religion. In the West, we just don't focus on them. And even in the motherland, we don't focus on them. Why is there a giant 40-foot white Jesus statue in the motherland? I would love to know. I would love to know. Because that it matters. And Dr. Umar going to explain why it matters. Don't get me wrong. When practiced the right way, religion's a beautiful thing. I don't think there's really, as we speak, there's nothing that really combines people more than religion. You know what I'm saying?
Is the toxic version of both faiths. I think your viewpoint of the faiths practiced in their pure form isn't necessarily expressed with what you're explaining, right? Because what you're explaining now is basically saying, hey, it's up to God to change it. It's not up to us to change it.
Absolutely.
But that
in its pure form, I have no issue with Islam or Christianity, except what appears to be a justification for enslavement. That's the only doctrinal issue I have with both faiths. I don't think anyone should justify enslavement, definitely not a religion. But outside of that, purely in terms of what they believe and what they profess, it may not necessarily be for me, but I don't take issue with it. The enemy of African people is not the faith, but the way in which it is taught and the way in which it is weaponized against African independence.
Right. And I would agree there. And I think that, like, to our defense, I think that when you look at the history of Christianity, there is toxicity. There was toxic origins a lot of the time with the faith even being like instilled, especially within the Black community. You know, the Black church in itself developed amongst Jim Crow, amongst
and nearly
slavery.
Every Christian denomination approved of slavery at one time or another.
Well, and when you say approved, though,
some churches, most of them either participated in slavery or approved it outright.
Right, and that's really why I want to touch on the Black church, because of course the Black church didn't own the slaves. And when I think about ownership today, right, and just surprisingly enough, right, in Philadelphia, that's apparently the oldest independent African American denomination is, and I'm reading this now, called the African American Episcopal Church. You probably know about this more than me.
I'm not sure if it's older than AME, African Methodist Episcopal.
Well, this is just research I've done. But it supposedly was started in 1794. And look, my point in that is really more so to just touch on the fact that this is something that's like grown with time. So like when you look at like even in the times of Jim Crow, many of the leaders in the Black church had leadership positions while being subservient in working society.
It should work a little bit better
to some degree.
No, I agree with you. Early Black Christianity, especially coming here out of Philadelphia, when you look at Absalom Jones, you look at Richard Allen, who protested against white church because they were not allowed to pray in the pulpit with white people. They were relegated to the back. So they walked out. And out of that came the African Methodist Episcopal Church, which is the largest Black independent, and one of the oldest. There's debate there because there's about 3 different churches who claim to be the oldest. So when you look at that, AME coming out of that protest, had I been back then, I may have been an AME, not for purposes of Jesus, but for purposes that you're fighting against white supremacy. I look at Absalom Jones and him starting, he also became one of the first Black independent church denominations. I actually just visited their grave not too long ago. So those Black church leaders, those early Black church leaders, I don't take issue with them. My cousin Frederick Douglass was actually an AMEZ pastor for a time as well. So back then the Black church was the bastion of organization. Everything came through the Black church. The job, you fought against the Klan through the church, the insurance, the burial fund, the civil rights, it came through the church. But in the aftermath of Dr. King's murder 55 years ago, April the 4th, the Black church reinvented itself, and it remade itself away from being an instrument of agitation to an instrument of accommodation. Back then, we fought racism head on through the church using the Bible. I take no issue with that.
Bars, and that's the issue. You got to think about it. There is difference. Just look at traditional women and modern women, traditional sports, modern sports. What would be the difference with religion? Old Testament, New Testament. Do you see how this thing works, bro? You can push all kinds of weirdo shit through the church now. All kinds of it. Now what? Now people are arguing that Jesus was trans. Now we got to debate whether Jesus was this or that. His pronoun. See what I'm saying? And especially the Black church is not what it used to be. It just isn't. It just isn't, bro. It just isn't. When King used to pack out a church, you had a line going out the door. Even though I don't agree with a lot of things that Martin Luther King did, you got to look at the power behind it. You got to look at just the Blackness that was involved in that. The Blackness that used to actually come out of the church. Yeah, you were reading the Bible, but didn't nobody really consider Jesus to be looking like Keanu Reeves? That's not just how we was thinking, bro. And that's my issue with what we search for in religion is not what it used to be. It used to be about households. It used to be about actual beliefs and morals. Obviously, everybody's got their, their own vices and whatnot, but
I'll join the
it's
church
just
like
not the
that
same. Religion is
tomorrow.
not
You
the same
understand?
anymore.
But in the post-Dr. King
At
era,
least not
the church has
Christianity,
reinvented itself,
especially
into
not Western
accommodationist
Christianity. It's not the
political
same thing,
action, where we're
yo.
not
And people are just so
challenging
stuck
the
in their
government
ways because
to do right by
they
our
don't
people.
want to.
We're
They're
trying to
scared
build
to
a
go
relationship
outside
with
of it.
racism.
All the stigma
How
that comes
can
with
an
being woke.
institution of
You know what I'm
God
saying?
have a relationship with the devil when the devil is not trying to become godly?
Right. And
so where's the protest? I'm seeing dinner and coffee and tea and conversation, but where's that Dr. King energy, that spirit, that get up and fight back? That's what's missing.
And okay, so now we're getting to the meat of the potatoes of what I want to get into. So with that being said, right, like I can, and just a level set, what I consider myself the church, right? Like being a Christian, the church is not necessarily a building, it's the people that make it, right? And no, being a part of the church, I know that we care about people, and we're trying our best to enhance our community and uplift our community. And I know for a fact that there are some churches that are doing a lot to actually like benefits the community around them. But
time out. I want to ask you something, and I want you to continue.
Yeah.
Churches do care.
Yeah.
Churches do a lot.
Yeah.
But with the church being the oldest political bulwark in the Black community, it's not just about caring about people. It's not just about doing a lot. You have to attack the 5 major problems that Black people have, which are,
talk to me,
miseducation, mass incarceration,
yes,
gentrification, police genocide, and access to wealth, also known as economic apartheid. The Black church must lend itself directly to challenging those 5 major problems and or creating the 6 major institutions that we need: schools for our children, hospitals to take care of our people, supermarkets to feed our people, manufacturing sector to employ our people, distribution to give them the needs that they want, and the banks to invest in our people. So you must be dealing with one of the 5 ills, and you must be constructing institutions to address those 5 things that we need. The Black church isn't doing that. And one of the reasons why many Black churches aren't doing it. And again, there's exceptions. Let me give you this. One of the reasons why they're not doing it is because in the year 2000, President George Bush, former President Bush, the son, he made it possible for churches to qualify for federal funding, faith-based initiative, FBI. And I would dare argue that the Black church is metaphorically the new FBI, the new agent, because ever since George Bush made it possible for Black churches to qualify for federal funds, they have not been on the front line of any fight. You can name me a church in any city, in any state in this country that is at the forefront. I didn't say participating. I said leading, galvanizing, at the forefront to improve the public schools, at the forefront to change mass incarceration, at the forefront to deal with gentrification and homelessness, at the forefront of police genocide, at the forefront of economic apartheid. I don't mean I came to the meeting. I don't mean I walked in the march. I mean you are galvanizing at the front like an Absalom Jones or Richard Allen or Dr. King or El Hajj Miguel Shabazz. So when I say church, this is not a Christian thing. I'm talking Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm talking even African traditionalists. You understand me? We are too passive and docile when it comes to marrying our religious faith in the fight for justice.
So like what you're explaining right now is, I think what like just hitting on the point of, hey, there's money here, there's resources here, there's people here, there's organization. we could take that and better allocate it. When you say the church, you're pretty much saying, look, they may be doing something, but from your peer view, and I would agree, it's probably not enough, and there's an opportunity to do more.
Absolutely.
Agreed. And so it's interesting though, right? Because when putting as a member of the church, right? I think there's a perspective of prioritizing the faith in itself, right? Because if you think about it, as a spiritual leader, my perspective is if I can connect you with God, but I may not be the forefront leader of the nonprofit that leads in education.
I don't care if they did with Moses, Jesus,
connecting you with God and connecting you with your full purpose. You now are equipped
and deal with Mahatma Gandhi, who was
that process
or Dr.
to
King,
then do that for your community. So
Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
And I think
honorable
I'm not even.
I don't disagree. Who professed a faith, if he was sincere in his faith, automatically became politically relevant. Jesus, by virtue of his work, automatically came to the attention of the government. You couldn't keep him out of it. Because if I'm fighting for people, I have to take on the enemies of my people. Dr. King automatically became relevant. Mahatma Gandhi in India automatically became relevant. There's no such thing as I'm a pious man, a pious woman. My life is dedicated to spreading the gospel of Christ and preparing my people for a relationship with the Almighty, but my life doesn't matter in the everyday lives of my own people. Show me where that exists in the Bible. Show me where that exists in the Quran. How can you be so in love with God that you're comfortable with your people living in hell?
And honestly, I hear you, right? Because at the same time,
time out, bomb plug. How can you be so comfortable with God that you're okay with your own people living in hell? Yo. Now that's crazy. And this is what I'm saying. When I understand the brother, he said he's not trying to justify it, but to me, it just sounds like cope. It sounds like Bible theory cope, bro. Because it's not historical. It's a cold ass book with a lot of truth in it, but it's not a historical book. Line up these stories with dates, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a hard time doing it. And I'm still waiting for somebody to prove a historical Jesus. You cannot prove. You can go off of probability, like Brother Garfield would say, you can look at probabilities, but you cannot prove a historical Jesus. You can't. And if you can, he did not look like Keanu Reeves, I promise you. Bomb plug.
Yeah, there's a lot more. I agree. There's a lot more that we could do. And so if we were to get to the tangible, because see, what I don't want this to be, right, is a conversation where it's like we're smiting the church.
We're not smiting the church.
Yes.
I want the church. My issue with the church is not what it does.
Yes.
It's with what it doesn't do. So there's nothing I'm trying to stop.
I love that.
I'm trying to start them, you understand me, down a path towards doing what the community does. So there's nothing I'm trying to stop. I need them to start picking up the baton that Dr. King left. You understand? 55 years. You haven't had a church leader yet step up like Dr. King has done.
Man, and your point
Mind you, we give the Black church more money consecutively and consistently than any other institution in America, including the Korean hair care industry, including Foot Locker and McDonald's. You follow me? Including the liquor store.
Wow.
Even with all the money we give to non-African people, the Black church still gets the bulk of our disposable income. I read somewhere it's about $8 million nationally every Sunday. Donations to the Black church are one of the biggest set-asides for Black America. How can we be investing that type of capital into an institution that doesn't hire nobody? In Philadelphia, we got mega churches all over.
So you mean to tell me that Pastor and them is getting $8 million nationwide every Sunday, and we still in the current state we in? If that doesn't tell you something about the church, then what else does? Because it used to actually be the center, the epicenter for movement within the community, Black movement within the community. Everything was done through the church. So you mean to tell me they got more money than ever? You see all these Black pastors on Instagram flexing the Maybachs, flexing the mansions. Half of them be getting busted for scamming and stealing within the church. But still, you mean to tell me that we're in the same state that your great-great-great-grandma was in, great-great-grandpappy was in, when they decided, you know what, maybe the Lord's got us. That's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying.
Everywhere you go in Black America, you got medium-sized, small, big churches. Almost none of them employ anybody. How are you taking in that type of money? How are you charging your followers to be responsible for paying the mortgage on this multi-million-dollar prayer house? The relevance of which we have to talk about when you ain't got schools and hospitals that you control, but you got a multi-million-dollar prayer house, and the only thing you do inside of it is worship. But you don't employ nobody. You're not training nobody. You're not really saving nobody from their everyday issues. You might be saving their soul, but you're not saving their life on earth. What good is a multi-million-dollar prayer house if nobody's making money off of it except the white bank?
Right.
These are the contradictions that the Black church has to address. Listen, I want to join the church because I think it's important that people see that I'm not anti-religion, although I say it all the time. I want to join a masjid. I want to be a member of every Black religion we got, as long as there's not a white Jesus hanging up. Do you understand?
We'll get to that.
But they got to be socially conscious and politically active. If there was a church in Philly right now that did the work of a Richard Allen on the Absalom Jones, I'll be there now. If there was a masjid that did the work of a Malcolm X, I would be there right now. You understand me?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with none of the religions.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the contradiction and the hypocrisy. How do you juxtapose all this money and all these followers and so little measurable progress for your race?
Man, and to be honest,
What
like,
he just
being
said,
a
what
part
I
of the
said
church,
in different terms.
It's interesting because what you I think if you took, like, let's say we hand selected 10 pastors or 10 church leaders from this area, I think they'd all agree with you, right? I think they all agree that, hey, there's a need to do these things. But of course, tradition is something that's hard to break out of. And granted, if you think about the tradition of the Black church, is actually—
be careful with that argument, because the slave master would have also said tradition is a hard thing to break out of, and so the slaves just need to be
forget about the tradition per se. I guess what I'm saying is, I know for a fact that, like, what you're speaking on, the issues you're speaking on resolving, are issues that the church wants to and is working to resolve.
Are you sure they're working to resolve?
Well, and that's the thing. So I think it comes back to, like, what's prioritized, right? And I think the equipping of, like, spiritual teachings and things like that are, like, what's prioritized. But let's
pause. That book is only so damn long, yo. We've been reading it for how many years, yo? How many decades? If you still don't know the context of what's in the book, I don't know what to tell you, man. You telling me that they're still putting spiritual teachings above Black progression? If though you might be able to come back and clean it up, but that's what you just said, Godbody. That's why Umar said be careful with that argument. That's what you just said.
Let's say today you become the leader of a church that has huge resources. And how would you allocate those funds? Because honestly, I think if you suggest great things, I don't see why organizations, you see where I'm going. I don't see why organizations wouldn't follow through with them.
The problem with so many Black churches is that they have already aligned themselves with a European-controlled income stream that doesn't have the Black community as its priority. So if I'm a Black church in Philadelphia, my church has already gotten a grant from my city councilman, my mayor, my governor, a grant from Bill Gates, a grant from the Rockefellers. I've already aligned myself with an agenda that's anti-African. Could I eliminate the relationship? I could. The problem is, I need this money. I'm now used to this money. I'm dependent on this money, which is why
you want to talk about tradition, Black man? How about tradition from the Black church sitting in white pockets? How about the Black church working through white banks? How about the Black church taking orders from white massa? How about Black pastor taking orders from white massa? And I'm going to put a picture up right here. So when you see the context of this picture, how would you know the difference between who's pastor and who's massa? Because there were Black and white passes, but there was also black and white masses. So you can't tell me that master didn't somewhere down the line go to pastor, and now that's where we get this thing.
Take issue when the black church says we don't get involved in politics. You're an absolute lie. Where is the first stop a mayoral candidate makes on his campaign trail? What's the first stop a U.S. senator candidate, a U.S. House of Representatives candidate, a state rep, a state senator, a alderwoman, an alderman, a council person? The first place they go to get votes is where? The black church. So if you're not into politics, why is your pulpit safe for every lying candidate in your city to come up there and bombast their so-called agenda that they know they're never going to carry out? If you are not political, stop endorsing political candidates. Stop giving them your microphone on Sunday, because they're not delivering anything to black people after they win. And the money that you use, you can't use it for the good of black people anyway, because another problem with the black church and the grant money they get, it handcuffs you to a multicultural agenda. So every time you hear black religious leaders talk, they're always talking about everybody. We're multicultural, all poor people, all non-whites. We're for everybody. We don't see color. That's a problem. You know why? Because for all the holiness that black religion preaches, they're not holy at all. I don't mean Holy, I mean WHOLE, whole. Because in order for the church to be whole, I have to be able to talk about economic problems at the church. I have to be able to talk about issues of violence and crime at the church. I have to be able to talk about political problems and medical problems and educational problems. But in the black church, so often you're told outright, and I've been in these meetings, we can't discuss that here. Why not? Are you not concerned with the black community? Why can't we talk about police brutality? Why can't we talk about the economic exploitation by Koreans and Arabs and everybody else? Why can't we talk about the political neglect of our elected officials? This is the place of God. We pray. We don't get involved in that. And that's why we're finishing dead last, because guess what? Everybody else's house of worship, it's whole. It's truly holy. Not Holy, but WHOLELY. It's holy, because after they pray to their God, the European Jews, they talk about how to get that money, how to look out for themselves politically. When the Arabs out there worshiping Allah, they can talk about how to get some more money.
Sidebar, Umar. I don't mean to play semantics, but I think if we go back, I think you misspelled one of them words, God. Okay.
In the black community. When the East Indians and the Latinos are done praying, they can stay right in their house of worship and talk about their political agenda, their economic agenda, their social agenda. Black people can't do that. We're the only people in America that have to go one place to pray and somewhere else to solve our problems.
Well, okay, and I hear that, but I do also know that there is some churches that
but you keep talking about some. When are we going to systematize it, brother?
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I know some.
Yeah.
I know some.
Yeah.
But when are we going to systematize it? Because the exception doesn't negate the rule.
No, right. And I guess what I didn't want to necessarily highlight the some of the few of the churches that are doing a good job. What I really wanted to say is, for those churches that aren't necessarily relying on, let's say, government funding to run their church, which I actually wasn't even aware of. To be honest, I didn't know that happened. Mm-hmm. But like, for let's say a church that's like running straight on like tithes and donations, mm-hmm. right? And it's a black church. How should that church restructure itself so that it could better serve the community?
3 things every church should have.
Okay.
A bank. If not a bank outright, start a credit union. You can start a credit union with $250,000. Provide access to capital so black people can grow their own businesses. As you know, we're living at a time where we are witnessing the genocide and extinction of the 9-to-5, 40-hour job. There's going to be no jobs in America. You're going to have to make one. We're going to have to go into business for ourselves. The Black Bank needs to be empowering black people to start their own businesses. If you are not talking about economic empowerment, don't talk to me about God. Because the crime in our community, the devil's work, is being carried out by unemployed black men. The devil's work is being carried out by unemployed black women. The devil's work is being carried out by unemployed black youth. So if you care about limiting the spread of evil, you have to economically empower people. Because contrary to popular belief, money is not the root of all evil. Not having no damn money is the root of all evil. When you walk out of here today You're not scared of millionaires. You're worrying about little Mike, and Tay who ain't got no way to eat, and whether they would have to ski mask and pull a gun out on you because the black church isn't doing anything to give them an opportunity to earn a decent, livable wage. Where's the economic empowerment? That's one. Number two, school. Every black church should have a school, and that school should be non-denominational. Here's another issue I have with black religion. And again, when I say church, I'm talking Muslims too. When they do happen to open up a learning center, because we have very few real schools ran by black religion in the country, which is unacceptable because most educators are aligned with the religion. Okay, there's very few non-religious educators. So where the schools at, right? But a big issue I take is the selfishness of black religion that says we're going to open up a school. But if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, your child can't come. If you don't accept Muhammad ibn Abdullah as the last messenger of God, your child can't come. That's selfish. During slavery,
Are
they
Christian
didn't
schools,
care.
are religious schools doing that?
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's
Yes. Yes. And they can.
But not all of them, of course.
Not all of them, but
Okay,
you
yeah.
can exclude children.
Yo, for a brother that claims he's in the church and claims to be of the church, there's a lot of stuff you learning today, boss. How are you a part of the church and don't know that the church gets government funding? You think I just never mind.
Children based on religious affiliation. Religious schools are the most powerful.
I did not know that.
But
That's
the most,
crazy.
absolutely.
Okay.
And so the issue I have is, so what? They don't believe in your religion as long as they respect it. Let them come and get that education. Imagine if we was on a plantation and Queen Mother Harriet Tubman showed up and said, wait, if you're not Christian, you ain't coming on my Underground Railroad. There was Muslims who was enslaved. You understand? There was African traditionalists who was enslaved. Harriet Tubman didn't say that. She fought for black people. We cannot let the religion supersede the racial agenda, which I think is one of our weaknesses as a people. We're the only people who put religion in front of the race. God made you black. You chose Christianity. God chose you to be an African. The only thing you belong to that you cannot choose. There's Christians who stop being Christian every
Bomb plug.
day. There's Muslims who stop being Muslim every day. There's Jehovah's Witnesses who stop being Jehovah's Witnesses every day. There's Methodists and Episcopalians who stop being Methodist and Episcopalian every day. But guess what you can never change?
Being black.
Being black. And who made you black? God. So what is more divine? The religion or the race? It's the race. I'm older than Jesus. I'm older than Muhammad. I'm older than Abraham. I'm older than Noah. When I existed, they wasn't even born. I'm older than every person you can name in either one of them books. So why would you dare limit me to that? I respect them all. But don't you dare tell me that my spirituality begins with that. My people were worshiping God before Jesus' grandmother was born. How dare you limit me to a religion? I respect your right to do that. The point that
No. A bomb plug. Yo, bomb plug. Nah, Umar spitting, bro. Melanin is infinite. Melanin is eternal. You are cosmic, bro.
I'm getting at. Why are religions so chauvinistic and dictatorial with how people establish their relationship with supreme consciousness? You understand me? Give people the right to build their relationship with God. And my issue with religion is sometimes it can become so constraining that it suffocates the spiritual life out of the person seeking the salvation.
Man, so you touch
again, the issue ain't religion.
Yeah.
But have some flexibility in there, because every religious denomination was born of a what? A protest of the pre-existing standard way of worshiping God. Every denomination grew out of a what? Protest of the previous denomination. So if we know religion has this history of evolving because people said, this ain't the only way to do it. This ain't the only way to do it. This ain't the only way to do it. Why don't we allow a little bit of room up there? And if nothing else, allow a safe space for race and culture within the religion.
Man, so you're touching on a lot right now, and it's I'm trying to figure out where to go, because okay, for starters, it's I'm not gonna lie to you right now. I'm a little like
Sure.
I'm struggling with some thoughts, because on one end, there's the fact that as a church leader right now, I may not necessarily have the resources to be excellent everywhere.
Understood.
You see what I'm saying? Like, we have resources. Let's say we have resources. I can't be at an A+ in every department.
Understood.
Education,
Understood.
finance. I'm an entrepreneur as well. I understand that in order to be excellent, there's a need for some degree of focus, right? So then, let's say if I'm a church leader, and I can empower my members to then be excellent in those areas, and there's that side of it, right? And then there is the blatant view of the church can do more. But I think even as a church, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still a little confused as to that, because is it realistic to expect the church to open a bank, to start a bank, to be excellent in the education system, and to be excellent with socio-political issues as well? I don't know if that's doable. And
let me push back on that point of the economics.
Okay.
Philadelphia leads the nation in gentrification. More Black people are being put on the street out of their homes in Philadelphia than anywhere in the country. Philadelphia also has some of the largest mega churches in the country. Guess where the money that those mega churches take from poor Black people, guess who's holding it for them? The white banks of Philadelphia. Guess who's giving these white racist developers the loan money they need to come into a North Philadelphia, a Southwest Philadelphia, and transform an urban ghetto into a white paradise for millionaires? Guess who they're getting the money from? The same white bank that these mega churches are holding their money in. What is the point you're making? The point that I'm making, this is how hypocritical the Black church is. The money that these white banks are loaning to these white developers to transform slums into private gated communities is being paid for by the Black church. Your white Jesus money, your Black Jesus money is being taken by your pastor, put in a white bank, and a white bank is taking your Black Jesus dollar and giving it to racist white men to build you and push you out of your neighborhood. If that is not a contradiction, what is? You're telling me grandma been donating to the church fund for 50 years. Grandma is a retired teacher. Grandma bought her home 30 years ago, but grandma cannot afford the increase in property tax. And let alone, grandma was forced to sell her house, or it was taken back by the city for failure to pay taxes. And guess who was responsible for grandma being priced out her own home, her own church, and her own money that was given to the white developer to put her on the street? If the Black church don't start opening up banks, then don't call it a church, call it a devil's den. But you don't take Black people's money and give it to white banks so they can give it to white developers to push Black people on the street.
But let me tell you what I hear when I hear that, right? Mm-hmm. I hear that we just need Black banks. Or like you see what I'm saying? Or we need, with that specific example, right? Because let's say
but there's few larger deposits made in Black America than the church. So when you say Black banks, who should be building them? The people most likely to handle big amounts of money. Who handles more money than the Black church? Nobody gets more money than the Black church on the weekend. That Eagles game, they won't get more money than what we gave to the Black church today. So why should the Black church not be responsible for economic salvation?
And that's back to the point of like I said, you do not like seeing resources misused. And you're basically what you're saying is, look,
or used to the betterment of your oppressor. Listen, these same banks that won't give you a loan for your business, won't give you a loan for your home with your own Black church deposit. This is Black money they holding. You're telling me you got millions of dollars of Black people's money in the name of a church, and I can't tap into none of that to build a business? But you'll take my Black church money and give it to a white out-of-town racist to come into a ghetto street and buy up 20 city blocks and turn them into multi-million-dollar houses, and none of the Black people whose money you're using to finance that white man can put use to it for themselves.
You know what? And see, what I love about this just right now is
Yo, if it's me, I would have had you move this plant the second or third time I hit this joint. Umar been smacking the shit out this damn little tree right here the whole time, bro. Yeah, he passionate, but that ain't very so. Maybe he just don't care, yo. I would have said like, bro, move my chair or move this though. I ain't gonna be smacking the shit out this.
I think that we have a potential answer to a problem. Tell me if I'm wrong. But let's say you are a church who has a predominantly black congregation. Maybe bank black.
That's not enough, brother. We have to be institution owners. You just
but if I'm banking black, I'm banking with a black institution owner.
But here's the problem with banking black, and we do have black banks, correct?
Yeah.
But guess what? One of the issues we're having with the black banks, most black banks are operating under a definition of 51% black ownership. You see that? So if you're banking at a bank that's 51% black ownership, so it's called black, the other 49% is white, who really own the power? That white man got more power than all 51% of them Negroes put together. That ain't no black bank.
Well, then
that's a white bank.
Exactly. So then that's not a black bank.
So let the black church open up their own bank.
Move the tree.
Did you know we used to have them all over the country? Ran by the black church. Ran by the black. Who you think opened up the first black hospitals? The black church, the first black schools. The black church, Queen Mother Harriet Tubman, a member of a black church. She built a home for the homeless blacks. She built a hospital. She built a farm. This woman allegedly was illiterate, no formal education. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman built the church, built the farm.
See, it used to make sense when we was doing black shit through the church, yo. Religion used to make sense when it was our own. It's not your own. Show me any church in America right now with a black Jesus hanging up. It don't got to be a black church. Show me any church in America with a black Jesus hanging up. You're not going to find one. They got them hidden in old Catholic churches in England and shit, but they're covered up. Like you're not. That's the point, bro. That's the point.
The farm, built the hospital, and built a home. Because when our elders got old during slavery, they would simply turn them out on the streets to die. How can Harriet Tubman build all three of those while working as a nurse, a spy, and a scout in the Civil War?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Being the most significant contributor to the Underground Railroad. What excuse?
That's what I was going to say. I know Umar got you hot right now. I know you say you're a part of the church, so Umar's got you hot right now, but this is not good hosting. Yo, move the damn plant. Yo, move the fucking tree. This nigga done hit the tree 1,400 times already, and we're not even halfway through the damn interview. Yo, just move the plant, bro. Get out your chest. I know you're mad about your Sky Daddy Jesus, but get out your chest and move the damn tree, because Umar keep punching the motherfucking tree, yo.
Do we got
to whom much
how
is
can
given?
You have all that money and all that members? Two of the most important resources any institution can have: people and profit.
Move the tree.
Got both.
Yeah.
Show me the measurable gains.
Yeah.
See, my issue with the black church, it takes three things from black people that we can't afford to waste. Too much of our time. Bible study, choir, church. I ain't got an issue with that. If you were reciprocating. You take our time, you damn sure take our money, and then you take our hope and our energy. And then with all this money and people power you got the audacity to tell us that we can't do nothing about our situation. It's in God's hands. Well, if it's in God's hands, stop collecting money then. If you can't affect Black America, don't take another donation. Make up your mind. You're either going to weaponize that money to save us, because the white man is damn sure using those bank deposits, those black church bank deposits, they damn sure weaponizing our own money against us in the gentrification war.
You know what? Honestly, I think what you, I hear you. And I think like when it really
what did Dr. King say? What good is fighting for the right for a black man to have a burger at the lunch counter if he can't even afford it? Half the black men in America are unemployed. Why, brother? They can't find work. So you mean to tell me you got churches with millions of dollars, and collectively there's no city whose church deposits don't number in the tens of millions? No city, right? How can you not be putting black men to work? The unemployment and underemployment of black men is one of the leading contributors to the destruction of the black family.
Mm.
You want to save the black family? Get these men jobs. Why do you think so few black men go to church? I just saw an article the other day. Black men are leaving church.
Yeah.
Black men are. You know why?
Because it don't make
Because there's no
damn sense.
opportunity in here for me. Get me a job. I'll come to church every day. But don't expect me to come here and pray and act like everything is everything. And I got to go home and ski mask up to feed my babies because the black church is no longer a place of economic empowerment.
Wow. You know what? Honestly, like I do hear you though. I think it comes down to whom much is given, much is required.
Bingo.
You know what I mean?
Bingo.
And at the end of the day, I think many churches may justify the use of funds as running like the current system that's in place. But what you're doing is
if you ain't got no money left over to do nothing except pay bills for that church, get you a smaller church.
Yeah.
Sell it the hell off. Because so many of these mega churches are located in the middle of black slums. So you sucking all the money out of the community just so you can brag about your multi-million-dollar prayer house.
Yeah. No, and honestly, there is like I think there's some big takeaways here. I think one, if you're a leader with power to decide on how these resources are distributed, you should be aware of the fact that you have a heavy responsibility of understanding where and how those funds should be allocated. To your point, if we are like using people's time, taking people's hope, we're not taking it, but you see what I'm saying, and their resources, that comes with responsibility, and efficacy is what you're speaking on.
Yes, sir.
Being effective with like what you're doing, consistently challenging the practices. Maybe what worked in Martin Luther King's time is not relevant to today. Maybe they were doing it better back then, but it's always worth kind of rethinking things like that, taking that perspective. And if you are a Christian who's a member of a church, you should be aware of these things and try to find the organizations that are doing a good job with connecting with allocating their resources, because I do know many, and I think that's part of the reason why when you say certain things, I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that was happening, because I think I'm plugged into the organizations that are trying their best to allocate things, but I know that it is happening. You know what I mean? And so I definitely hear what you're saying.
I know some churches, but what we can't do, is use the churches that are doing the right thing as a distraction away from the need for radical transformation by the churches who are doing the wrong in school. So although it's okay to make sure we keep the conversation balanced by acknowledging there are progressive black churches out there, don't use it as a distraction away from the need for radical transformation inside the churches that are not doing the right thing. Dr. King said, the true measure of a man is not where he stands at the times of convenience, but at the times of war. And at times when people are in disagreement, at times of political strife and controversy and upheaval. Dr. King said that if a man don't have a reason for which he's willing to die, he ain't fit to live. Dr. King was murdered. Why? Not because he had a dream, not for integration. Dr. King was murdered because he was on his way to DC to lead a breadbasket campaign. He was going to take poor black, poor white, poor everybody. They was going to go to the nation's capital. Nobody was leaving until everybody had a home and a job. A home and a job. America said, if we let him come here, he will embarrass this country so badly that nobody will ever look at us as the same. Remember, America has this superficial, hypocritical image of being the moral police of the planet, right? How are you going to let Dr. King come to your front lawn with every poor person he can find of every color? Nobody's leaving DC without a home and a job. Dr. King was on the verge of economic revolution. What good is sitting at the counter if you can't afford to pay for the meal? They murdered Dr. King because they couldn't afford to have that economic revolution take place. The black church should be picking up where Dr. King left off. But the reason why so many churches will not be picking up where Dr. King left off is we know that your average pastor did not open that church because he wanted to be a beacon of progress for the black community. He opened that church for reasons of ego and economics. And this is why I'm very, very circumspect before I put faith in a pastor or a politician, because both of them are the same person masquerading under two different costumes. Most are economic opportunists, megalomaniacal egotists who simply want that church so they can brag about having that church. They need to feed their ego. And the quickest way for a black man to feed his ego and get some money is to start a church or going into the clergy. not to serve our people, but to serve themselves.
You talking though? You talk.
Even Buddy had to admit you talking. And this is, I'm gonna say this one time. I'm dealing with this one time. I'm not gonna do it again. This is my only issue with MLK right here. This way. This is my only issue with MLK right here. Explain this. If anybody feels like they want to explain it, then they can explain it. But from my interpretation, the man got too deep. He was trying to play both sides of the fence, and he got too deep in the shit. He was already picking up black folks by the busloads and dropping them off to get their asses sprayed with water and attacked by dogs. I don't know who's. If that was a black man's idea, it was a dumbass one. I don't know. We got Black Panthers. We got niggas with guns. Why is y'all showing up to get sprayed with water hoses, beat with sticks, and attacked by dogs? It don't make no sense to me. It really don't make no sense to me. Right? So that's what I'm saying. He was playing both sides of the field. And then, like Umar just explained to you, he wanted to lead an economic revolution. But why did he want to do that? Because he got too deep in the shit. All his movement was turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek. And then all of a sudden you want to spark a revolution, a revolt. Why would that be? Probably because they had some more orders and you wasn't trying to do it. Said, oh shit, they not my people not gonna go for all this. Whatever they had you about to do, that's my only issue right there. Because then he talks about, I feel I may have led my people into a burning building. What could that mean, yo? And y'all followed him gladly right into the burning building. Yeah, that motherfucker was burning all right. You see where we sitting at in 2023? This building is hot. Talk about global warming. Yeah, it's a real motherfucking thing. It's heating up you niggas. It's heating up these niggas. You been to Atlanta lately? Burning.
Yes,
Burning.
That dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare.
Bro, I'm right with you. There needs to be a constant fight against toxic religions, toxic faiths.
Absolutely.
And we as a people need to kind of like be aware of like that this is happening and do our best to stop it from happening. Mm-hmm. So then outside of that, there is like the whole Jesus in general, right? Like when I think about Jesus, I think it aligns with what you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. Like Jesus was somebody who actually took care of the tangible needs of the community at that time. If somebody were blind, he came through. You can see now. If somebody was,
if they was hungry, he fed every one of them.
Exactly. And now we have like the call to walk in those footsteps, right? As now specifically in the context of African Americans, you spoke on it already. We see pictures of artists depicting Jesus as like a white guy with blue eyes. To be honest, my personal perspective is I don't necessarily care what he looks like.
You must care if you care about the truth. Don't call yourself a man of cloth if you don't care about truth. Because if we care about truth, we care about the color of Jesus. Which way you want this?
No. Well, so okay, I do think that art matters, right? Because
the truth matters.
Well, but will we ever really get down to it though? Because
absolutely. We know what Jesus looked like. Every statue, every coin, every painting of Jesus the Christ was blue, black, purple until the rise of racism and the Europeans started going around the world systematically stealing all of the original statues and images of Christ and replacing them with Caucasians. Leonardo da Vinci painted the Last Supper in 1482. Was that a coincidence? Because Columbus set sail when? In 1492. And what was the greatest weapon used in order to enslave African people? It was the white Jesus. The white Jesus was Columbus' greatest weapon, and it's still the greatest weapon. I knew a brother in Jamaica. I met him in Florida. I was speaking at the Marcus Garvey Technical School of Jamaica's fundraiser. He said, Dr. Umar, we got a white church. We have a black church with a white Jesus in Jamaica. This is one of the blackest islands. This is the land of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, greatest Pan-Africanist of all time. He said he went out and got a black Jesus painted, much better than the cracker Christ. His pastor told him, we will never take this down. This is how Jesus looked. Blue, black, purple people content on having Leonardo da Vinci's uncle masquerading as their savior. If your deity looks like your enemy, if you are content to let your deity look like your enemy, you deserve to be a slave. You deserve to be a slave. Look, Jesus was from the tribe of Judah.
Why? Why? Not only are you already a mental slave, you can say whatever you want. If your deity looks like your oppressor, you are already mentally captured. You're already defeated. That's why he says you might as well be a slave. Take it how you want it, but that's real. That's real. It ain't no other way to put it. If you let me break it down to you like this. I told somebody this. Shout out to the elder Shaka Amos, one of my great teachers. If you still are lost in the Bible in 2023, in the technological space age that we live in, with all this crazy shit going on, and you still got your nose stuck in that Bible because your great-great-granny told you so, you are a mental midget. You are mentally handicapped, and you deserve to be a slave because you already are mentally. You might as well just enjoy it in the physical as well. Huh? Bomb plug, bitch.
Right.
Judah was the bluest, blackest of the 12. They were known for their nappy hair and purple skin. His mother hid him in Kemet, Egypt. Named Egypt by the Greeks, it means land of the blacks. There's no way you're going to hide a white, blonde hair, blue-eyed child in a country of blue, black, purple African people. Let's keep on going. The title Christ, which comes from an African word, karas, which speaks to the spirit that rises within. In ancient Africa, no one would have been given the title Christ if your skin was not kissed of the sun. In those days, I would be too light to be a savior because back then, divinity was black. Asaru, one of the manifestations of God consciousness, was called Lord of the perfect black. Blackness was divinity. That's why every religious teacher was black and nappy. Nobody looked like white with blonde hair and blue eyes. That's a recent creation of the pale man. The question is, why are black churches so content with having a false image of Jesus that they know is false in their church instead of a real historical depiction? And by the way, the oldest original painting of Christ right now, I believe it's in the museum in Egypt. It's the oldest one. And guess what?
Look at the look on his face, bro, because you're always going to need some form of justification. Because if you're stuck in that book, you're going to need some form of justification for why God got you in this shitty-ass position that you're in. Instead of just admitting that it's mythology, like all of your predecessors did, they admitted that these deities were not necessarily real. But you can't do that. See, I've come to the conclusion that black people stuck in the Bible are really just confused spiritualists. Confused spiritualists. Because all of the arguments that they're going to run to is that are basically just watered down spirituality. Just about all of them. And when it comes to Jesus' supernatural things, you're never going to be able to prove a supernatural or even disprove, right? So we can't necessarily say that he didn't walk on water, but you also can't prove that he's historically real. You can't do it. You just can't do it. You haven't done it, so you're not going to do it. So if they show you some bones or whatever they might try to show you, it's going to be just like they did with fossils and dinosaurs. It's not real. So to my dear brothers and sisters that are Bible thumpers, look, go back to what came before Christianity, right? Go back to the people that were in touch with the planet, in touch with nature, and see how much their books resemble yours. I guarantee you, he's going to try to come with some form of justification rather than just saying, look, Brother Umar, obviously you did your history. Obviously you did your work, you did your research, you did your homework. Maybe there's some things I should check out. Maybe there's some things I should reevaluate. Nope. It's going to be justification, cope, and more watered down spirituality, and talks about why Jesus being black doesn't matter. And this is what I mean. Watered down spiritualists. This is how I see Christians. Because do you know how many black brothers have told me that God in the Bible is just source? And that Jesus was just the human manifestation of source? Yo, what the hell is, bro, you're confused. So what do you think? Also, how many Christians don't even know what Kemet is or was, don't even have a sense of a clue. So you've never heard of Kemet, but yet you've devoted your whole life to Christianity? Better yet, modern Christianity? Better yet, you read the King James version of the Bible? Better yet, he was in love with his cousin Bucky? But I'll leave that alone. Watered down spirituality. That's all it is. That's all it is watered down spirituality, and they made a different story. Using a lot of the same characters and that came before them.
Consciousness can allow me to pray in your church to a white image of Jesus. You damn sure comfortable with me being dominated by white people.
Right.
Until we take the slave out of us, we'll never be able to end slavery in our real world. And the problem with black religion is you're dealing with issues of the soul. And if an institution responsible for dealing with issues of the soul is content with that soul being entrapped and encapsulated inside, responsible for dealing with issues of the soul is content, you damn sure okay with me being dominated by a white man. If your consciousness can allow me to pray in your church to a white image of Jesus, you damn sure comfortable with me being dominated by white people.
Right.
Until we take the slave out of us, we'll never be able to end slavery in our real world. And the problem with black religion is you're dealing with issues of the soul. And if an institution responsible for dealing with issues of the soul is content with that soul being entrapped and encapsulated inside a concept of white divinity, then that black church just became an agent of the devil.
Right. No, and just to be clear, I don't think Jesus was white.
It's nothing to think about.
Yeah,
I need you to know, my brother, that he was blue, black, purple.
Right.
Know it. Go to Egypt. Look at the pictures of him.
But when
look at the paintings. Look at even in the Bible, it says what? He had feet like burnt brass and hair like lamb's wool.
Whoa.
The only person on earth with hair like this is Christ. Christ was an African.
And I'm right with you. I guess all I'm just saying is, like, when you look at the purpose of Christ, his skin doesn't matter.
Why don't the truth matter? Here we go again. Why don't stop dismissing the divinity of blackness?
No, I'm not dismissing it, because
you know what white folks going through right now?
Yeah,
50% of the states in this country have a zero.
Let me put it like this: if we really knew the secrets and the sciences to this, if we knew what melanin was comprised of, if we knew that they were talking about melanin, you ever seen Spider-Man 3? When that asteroid comes in and the black slime comes out, and that turns out to be Venom. Talking about melanin. I'm talking about that cosmic greatness. They're talking about that cosmic substance that floods the universe. Everything that you see is comprised of melanin, or a lack thereof. See, if you knew how much it meant for Jesus to be black, you would fight for it. You wouldn't, well, color doesn't matter. I don't see color. Well, guess what? The people that created this, they saw color. So that's on you.
Zero white population growth. More white people are dying than being born in 25 states. This was reported by the AP. You know why they dying off? Because they ain't got this. This melanin is the God gene. This is why black people can pray and connect to God much deeper and much longer than anybody else, because we are the chosen people. Being chosen ain't got nothing to do with whether you got a Bible or a Quran. Being chosen is being a descendant of the original man and woman God put on the Fertile Crescent of Nile civilization in Africa. And the reason why so many white women are sleeping with black men to produce these kids is subconsciously the first law of reproduction is survival. The first law of existence is survival. So they're sleeping with black men trying to get some of our melanin to help their species survive. This is why we made it through slavery. This is our God gene. This melanin is the spiritual molecule. This is what allows you to catch that Holy Ghost. This is what allows you to talk to your ancestors. Don't dismiss this. This is not color. This is power.
Wow. And to be honest, like that perspective on being black, I think is one that, especially with our community having self-hate, one that can definitely bring our perspective up as a group. And I do think that it's important. But I also think, and I didn't want to take the conversation here, but I just want to say this real quick. I do think it might be there's potential for danger there a little bit, right? Because let's think about this, right? So like, if we don't like the fact that white people have like said they're the superior race for years and years, and then
I did not argue racial superiority.
Okay. So,
I did not argue.
So,
I have no need for a white girl to think she's less than my daughter.
Okay.
I have no need for an Arab child to see me as superior. As African people, our culture does not preach superiority. I do not believe in racial superiority. Do you understand? But I do believe in the truth. And I do know that God chose my people through which to send every savior he's ever sent to this planet. You can't name one who didn't look like me. Buddha was an African. Krishna was an African. There's no savior that walked this earth in ancient times who wasn't kissed of the sun.
Right.
The world needs to know that truth.
So then here's the thing, right? So let's get to it, right? So knowing that.
Bomb plug, bitch. See, as soon as we can start actually self-identifying, because it is an identity crisis, the general always says, how could it be an identity crisis if you don't know who you are? You've been lost through so many generations of oppression and oppressors trying to literally push your character out of you so that you don't understand who you are. But if we were to just take some time to really look into what's going on here, not only is it a genetic war and a race war, but it comes down to every soul fiber of your being. You are comprised of the same thing as stars, bro. As soon as you realize that you are literally a stardust walking around light body, then everything changes. Then you stop saying, well, I mean, I think black's just a skin color. I don't really know what melanin is comprised of. I don't really know the importance of carbon 12, and, what we're actually supposed to be doing here, rather than just going to the Twerk Fest Freaknik party every Friday night, every Saturday, every weekend, so you can go. You see, we're lost. We're simply lost. And that's why these kind of conversations don't come up. And when they do come up, you run for the motherfucking hills. Because you don't know shit.
So I guess what I'm trying to get to is, how would you recommend for somebody to pursue the truth of their spirituality in today's day so that it sticks? Because I don't want this conversation to be one of entertainment that doesn't actually change people's perspective in a positive way. You know what I mean? Because you see what I'm saying? Because look, if Jesus was black and that's the truth,
this conversation only serves no purpose for lazy-minded individuals that don't want to better their situations. If you care about your spirituality, if you even care about your religion, if you even care about the color of your skin, then when you hear this, you will do some motherfucking homework. Because obviously some shit you probably ain't heard before, or we would be moving different. You want to hide something from a black man, put it in a motherfucking book. Put it in a motherfucking book, nigga. Niggas don't want to read, nigga.
I want us to know that. But it's hard to know. You see what I'm saying? Like everybody's saying, like everybody's just as passionate. There's somebody in every group that's just as passionate.
Understood. Passion is one thing. Truth is something else.
Right.
The difference between our passion and everybody else's is ours is backed up on truth. Do you realize that the black man and woman was on this planet all by ourselves for over 100,000 years before anybody else evolved from our seed? We was on the earth. The earth was ours. We gave birth to the white man, the Arab, the Latino, the East Indian, the Chinese. We gave birth to them. This was our planet. And I totally believe this. Until the black man and black woman rediscover their true divinity and purpose, not superficial, not just calling myself a Christian, but embodying it in its truest essence, not just calling myself a Muslim, but embodying it in its truest essence, not just calling myself an African traditional spiritualist, but embodying it, this planet will never go back to being what God intended it to be. Because I absolutely believe in my heart, we are the only people who can rule this planet with justice. How do I know this? Because we did it already. When ancient Kemet ruled this earth, when the Nile Valley cultures of East Africa ruled this earth, we did it with justice. The Greeks and the Romans came to Africa begging to learn, begging to study, begging to sit at the feet of our kings and queens and scholars and priests. You understand? We ran the world with justice. White man can't run the world with justice. He runs it with brutality. The Chinese ain't gonna be able to run the world with justice. He's gonna run the world with brutality. The Arab can't run the world with justice. He's gonna run the world with brutality. The only people who can rule this planet in righteousness is the black man and black woman. The point that I'm making, if the black church is too insecure, too afraid, or too unconcerned about marrying divinity to blackness, then the black church is useless. Because if you want to kick off the slave energy that every black boy and girl in America has, if you want to rip out that servitude that is so deeply planted and ingrained in the unconscious of black people, you have to marry blackness to divinity. You got to teach those boys you are God. Not the supreme consciousness, but a manifestation of it. You got to tell those black girls, you are God. Not the supreme essence, but a manifestation of it. Why do you think black women wear so much fake hair? Why do you think we spend more money on hair and beauty than all other people put together? The first woman ever created on earth is imitating the youngest woman ever created on earth. And you're spending $30 billion and catching cancer and fibroid tumors just to look like a European. You know why? Because the black church separated blackness from divinity. Blackness is divinity. And until the black church marries blackness back to divinity, we'll never go back to being the gods and goddesses we were intended to be.
Damn.
Man.
Color matters in the church. Jesus's color matters.
Facts.
And until you take this and put it back in that book will be worthless, because every black boy and girl needs their melanin activated by the religious institutions. Let them know this is not just a color.
This nigga
This
sick.
is royalty.
This-
Claim it. It doesn't mean you got to think you better than nobody.
Yeah, and that's
But
what,
step into your truth. But let me also say, we can't be so careful about what the white man feels, or so careful about what the Arab thinks, or so careful about what the European Jew thinks, that we don't give our children a true history of black divinity, because we're so concerned of how it's going to affect everybody else. Since when has anybody been concerned about how what they do affects us?
So then how did you get to this point, right? Of like being able to stand on these statements, knowing that it's true? Because I'm telling you right now, a majority of my, like the people I know, like resonate with this message, want to like believe the truth of it, but it's hard to know what the fact and what the fiction of it is. You see what I'm saying? How did you get to a point of being able to confidently say Jesus was black?
You and your congregation need to take a trip to the Vatican in Rome, the so-called Holy City. Let them take you in that basement and let them show you the artifacts that they stole from ancient Egypt at the time of the Holy Roman Empire. Go look and see what's in the basement of the Vatican. I have a picture at home, an actual photo, and many people have seen it. It's all over the internet, of Pope John Paul II, who's now deceased, I believe, in the basement of the Vatican, praying in the front of a statue of a black Saint Peter. There's other pictures of popes praying at the statue of a black Mary and Jesus. They know we God. They know we God. Why would a white pope, the most powerful white religious leader in the world, have everybody praying to a white Jesus upstairs? But when he's by himself, he goes downstairs, kneels and bows and prays in front of a statue of a black Mary and a black Jesus. Why? Why didn't they destroy them statues? Why is it that you can go to Ireland and see a black Madonna in child? You can go to Rome and see a black Madonna in child. You can go to Russia and see a black Madonna in child. How is it you got all these white churches with black Madonnas and childs that the Pope bows down and prays in front of while he telling you Jesus was black, while he telling you Jesus was white skin, pale skin, blue eyes, and blonde hair? They know the truth of who we are. The problem is they separated our blackness from our divinity. We the ones. In ancient Egypt, the big nose was beautiful. Big lips was beautiful. Black skin was a blessing. Now look how they did 360'd it. A little black girl look in the mirror. If she blue, black, purple, she thinks she ugly. She don't know she's looking at God. Why? Because the black church won't tell her that. Why? Because they need that money from the white man.
Right.
The hand that pays is the hand that rules.
So tangible, things.
Black church.
Just think about it. Hypothetically speaking, right? We know Umar is spitting right now, but for the people that are lost in the blue pill Milky Way, had too many blue pill smoothies for breakfast. Hypothetically speaking, let's say he just is right. Why, after all these years, if all the black church has to do was say, you know what? Look, y'all, we done been through a lot. Religion done changed a lot. But you are God. You are the physical manifestation of the Creator. You've been here for millions of years. That's all. If the black church has to say that one time and everything changes. One black church has to get it on video and say it one time and everything changes. But it hasn't happened. If that doesn't speak volumes to where you're at and where the black church is at, I got nothing else to say. It's 2 + 2 shit. 2 + 2 shit that we
need to build black schools and marry our color to our religious consciousness. They are not separate. They are not separate.
I'm gonna go 5 more minutes, y'all. 5 more minutes.
Even in the Bible, God forbade the Hebrews to mix with any other group. You understand? The royal family does not mix their blood. What did the racist queen, before she died, what did she tell her son, married to Meghan Markle? Her grandson can never, ever claim the throne. He gets none of the privileges of royalty. Are you aware of this?
No. Actually.
Oh, yes. Yes. Meghan Markle. You know who she is. She married the prince, right?
Yeah.
The queen said, his grandmother said he can never lay claim to this. You know why?
Oh, yeah. I actually did hear about it.
Because royalty, why? She killed her own daughter. Queen Elizabeth was murdered because she was pregnant with an Arab's baby. Royalty don't mix. And the reason I'm against interracial marriage is not because I think the white woman is less than. No, I don't hate nobody. That's not my ministry. Ain't hate. My ministry is love. But we royalty. You don't go take the God seed. Take your God seed and give it to a member of our oppressors group. You don't take our God seed and give it to a woman of any other race. We are divine. And if you keep on diluting our divinity, we're going to lose the blessing of the Most High because we failed to administer to his law. And one of the first laws is the royal house of God does not mix their seed with anybody else.
So you're touching on a couple things right now, which we could go down that road, but I'm gonna tread lightly.
All right, that's enough, family. I don't want y'all falling asleep. We didn't go on deep today. I didn't hit y'all with about 47 different bomb plugs, and there's a reason for that. Probably because I am Chinzera Yuti, aka the one. The one. You spend your time watching all these other dudes, and they can't fuck with me. Tell them to debate me, because they can't fuck with me. They talking about bullshit. They talking about how LeBron probably finna come back from down this 3-0. But don't nobody want to talk about the fact that he threw up a pyramid and a 666 before every single game. You niggas seem confused. Huh? Bunch of Charleston whites running around this motherfucker. All right, dog. Yeah. But I'm going to keep it light. Hey, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, drop a like. Please share the video, family. Don't watch this at school. Don't watch this at work because you probably going to get fired. All right, y'all. Much love. Chinzera Yuti, a.k.a. the one. Ya Umar Uda. Peace to the goddesses and gods. Love, family. And there's a reason for that. Probably because I am Chinzera Yuti, a.k.a. the one. The one.